So, Mr. Piedisliker, tell me what's on your mind.
Well, I guess it comes down to two issues I have. They're related in some fashion. First off, I'm a people pleaser, and I also have a fear of confrontation. Both of these problems have given me quite a few bad memories, along with hours of lost sleep.
I see. And how long has this been going on?
I can't really point out one specific time. It goes far back into my childhood, but it was never as extreme or as much of a concern to me as it is now. It reminds me of when I was around 11 or 12 years old, and I was always anxious to ask to sit next to strangers on the bus. Middle school was pretty rough on me. Yet, I had more of a reason back then to be afraid because my issues were more serious. I look at what issues I'm currently reacting to in comparison, and they seem so much tamer.
And what sort of issues would those be nowadays?
It doesn't seem to matter what type of issue, I have to deal with the same fears. One situation I'm under is that I'm a referee for youth soccer. While it is fun at times, it's very draining on me to hear the parents complain over calls, and some experiences have left me dreaded going onto the field, even though most of the time it isn't serious. It's going on with my YouTube channel in a similar fashion. Not only am I afraid to approach new people, fearing I'll bother them or waste their time, but I feel that I'm always seeking approval from my audience over the smallest details. I value their criticism, but I'm risking my freedom of what I want to make because I'm always worrying over how they'll react. It's not about what I think anymore, and I've been suffering from it.
So, you're looking for ways to better handle any negative feedback. I suppose it's rather commonplace for a person to focus on one comment of criticism even when they've had over a dozen compliments that same day. Such experiences can have adverse effects on the best of us. Might I ask whether you found any methods that helped in the past but no longer seem to make as much positive difference nowadays?
That's difficult to say. I think in the past I had more to worry about, so it was less of a concern for me. I was much more focused on this issue over winter break, for example, because I had more free time to work on my videos. Though there are some ways I find relief. I try as much as I can to talk with people I trust the most who understand the issue I'm going through. If it's refereeing, I'll speak with my mother. If it's over YouTube, I'll speak with one of my friends that also makes videos. I usually have a few people to go to for every situation. It's a little funny when I think about it though, because I am concerned that going to the same few people will make me seem like a bother to them. I suppose it's the lesser of two evils in this case.
I would say so. It is far better to talk about what you're stressing over from time to time rather than bottling it up because you're constantly worried about what others might think. So even though it may be a bit overwhelming to those you confide in, it's still far better than the alternative. As long as it's in moderation, of course. As for how to better learn from criticism without bringing your own confidence down, I suppose part of it has to do with how you see your work, but more of it has to do with how you see yourself. I've often found that when someone has trouble dealing with the negative comments of others, it's coupled with an inability to forgive one's own shortcomings. There are people in the world who can take whatever the world throws at them and still keep their self-confidence and ability to improve. And so much of that has to do with the concept of self-worth. It reminds me of the episode Equestria Games and how Spike was able to see himself. He had his self-confidence and a drive to perform on behalf of the Crystal Empire. Though once he began failing in front of a massive audience, he had an overwhelming desire to belittle himself. One might think that this could change once he had managed to prove his talents for saving others. And surely the cheering crowd seemed to agree. But it didn't really matter at that moment, because Spike wasn't ready to forget the disapproving silence from the audience earlier that day. He wasn't ready to forgive himself, even after accomplishing something so impressive to make up for his shortcomings. It wasn't until the end of the episode when he began to regain his sense of self-worth, no matter what anyone else had thought of his accomplishments, that Spike found his self-confidence and ability to improve again. So, with this in mind, do you think this might have anything to do with your fears, Piedisliker? Do you feel that you're lacking the ability to forgive what you perceive as your own shortcomings?
I'd say that's definitely a factor. I've been very harsh on my mistakes because I've always been pushing myself to do better. Instead of looking upon how much I've improved and might improve in the future, I think about how others will notice my mistakes or potential flaws, which also affects my desire for approval from others. Sometimes I'll even interpret simple comments as something much worse than they actually meant. This happens especially online since the written word often has limited context behind it. I've thought about it previously. The moments before and after a confrontation are much worse for me than when I'm currently involved in one. I've always wondered why, but I think I'm closer to finding the reason. I've actually managed to stay calm during intense situations and break down miserably afterwards. And even the thought of a confrontation being possible makes me shake. I guess my mind has been telling me that I'm in the wrong for any reason I can come up with. Regardless of how I handle the situation, I never feel good about it afterwards.
Well then, we need to discover just how you can allow yourself to feel worthwhile even after a confrontation. Put in some practice with regular conversations. And it seems that you're already on that track with making videos on YouTube and being a referee for soccer games. So for the next step, I would advise that you write your concerns down on paper or on a computer whenever you're feeling stressed out from a confrontation. Collecting your thoughts and looking back over them at a later time may not seem like much, but it does allow you to notice patterns and begin to learn from your past behavior. Is that something you can do for me, Piedisliker?
I've actually tried doing the opposite and blocking out those negative emotions. That never did work, as they always returned. I suppose it wouldn't be hard for me to write down my thoughts when I'm troubled. I already made a vlog or two in the past expressing my situation, and my audience was overwhelmingly positive. I just hope that looking back on my thoughts won't cause me too much pain later on. I'll definitely give it a shot if it means it will help me in the long run, though.
Glad to hear it. I look forward to hearing about any positive changes you discover over these coming weeks. And I wish you best of luck, Piedisliker.
Thank you, Doctor. I know the issue won't be solved overnight, and it will be a slow process, but I think that if I can overcome this, I can overcome anything. Anyway, I really appreciate your help.
Take care. It's good to be helping.